In this section, we are going to talk about how referenced files are utilized in MoDOT production. Elements in a reference file display as though they are geometry in the active design file. Although you cannot manipulate or delete the elements displayed in a reference file, you can snap to them or even copy them into the active design file if needed. To get to your reference dialog box, you can either go to this icon right here, and it will bring up the reference dialog box, or you can go underneath the tools pull down and get to references here also. And as you notice inside our file here, we have multiple referenced files to this active sheet that we're in. And just like what I said before, you cannot manipulate any of these items inside the reference file. So if I come in here, and let's say I come in and I try to delete out a certain item. If I use my delete tool and I try to delete something out, you're going to notice that as I try to delete something, you're going to have that little circle right above your cursor there, and also it's going to say elements in a read-only reference, and it shows you what level that item's on and also the reference file of where it's located at. And for that particular item right here, it's located underneath the plan underscore route 133.dgn. That's where that geometry actually resides at. And the reason why we use reference files here at MoDOT is it makes it a lot easier to work with the files down the road, especially on large jobs. Kind of the folder structure that normally is done, just kind of give you a little bit of an overview here. I'm just going to do a file open just to kind of demonstrate this. You got the job number, and then after that normally you have three folders underneath there. One that says data, one that says plan sheets, and one that says project. Project deals more with GEOPAK settings, so we're not going to talk about that here in this section. But underneath the data folder, if I double click on it, this is where basically your master sheets are located at, like your topo drawing, the survey files that you get, the master strip map of the whole entire job, and a bunch of other files that are located underneath there. Basically, the data for that particular job is located underneath the data folder. I go back one, and when I go to the plan sheets, here's where your plan sheets are located at, depending on how you set up this structure. Sometimes underneath the plan sheets it goes, you may have a separate folder for each type of sheet, like your traffic control sheets or your erosion control sheets, and so forth, depending on how big a job that you got. If it's a small job, you may have all of your sheets just directly underneath the plan sheets folder, which is perfectly fine. It all depends on how you want to do it. These sheets here actually are the sheets that have that border around them, that are comprised off of a lot of your sheets that are underneath the data folder, like your master plan sheet, or your topo sheet, or cross sections, and so forth. So we'll kind of demonstrate that here in this section using this file right here, which we already have opened up. And like we see here, we got multiple sheets referenced to this sheet, and we'll demonstrate a lot of these options in other videos. But right now, if we go underneath the tools pull down, we have some options underneath here, and we'll demonstrate a majority of these whenever we go through a couple of the videos, and also with the settings options, depending on what gets used most commonly here at MoDOT. For right now, I will go over these two right here where it says reload and reload all. Basically what those do is if you click on it, it'll reload the file. So let's take, for instance, somebody's working on this topo drawing and they've made changes to it and they've saved the changes and so forth, and you want to see the changes that they have done. Well, you can come in here, click on the file, and do a tools reload, and it will reload that file to the last save that person did. Or you also have the option that says reload all, which will just reload all your reference files to their latest saved changes that they've done. A couple different ways we can identify a reference file. One way is if you have your mouse, we'll just use our element selection tool, and we hover over top of an item. Let's say this guardrail right here. If you hover over top of it, of course it's going to show you what it is, what level it's on, and also what reference file it's on. Another way you can identify it is your highlight modes right here. If I change my highlight mode, right now it's set to boundary, which is the, let me move this out of the way here and do a fit view. It just shows that clip boundary that's around it whenever that sheet was created. Now if I come in here and I change that to highlight, it'll actually highlight those items that are contained inside that particular file. Just like this one right here, it's topo. So if I zoom in a little bit, all these ones that are highlighted actually reside underneath this particular file right here. Or if I go down to the one that says plan underscore Route 133, select it, it'll highlight all those items that actually reside inside that file. So that's another way you can identify where those particular items at if you need to edit those. And the good thing about reference files is right now we just have a plan sheet. It shows most of your plan stuff that you're doing with the job. Well, let's say we have this particular sheet right here and we have the same area through here for your traffic control sheet or your erosion control sheet and so forth, special sheets. Well, I can use this particular file right here, reference those to all those sheets, and then if a change needs to be made, all I need to do is go into this file, make that change that I need. Maybe a pipe needs to get moved or some hatch pattern needs to be fixed or and so forth. But then once it's changed inside this file, any file that is referenced back to this sheet, it'll reflect onto all those sheets. So you don't have to make changes to your plan sheet and then go to your traffic control sheet, make the same changes. Erosion control sheet, make the same change 3 or 4 different times. You've done it to one sheet, it'll reflect on all those sheets that use this file as a reference file. I'm going to change my highlight mode back to boundary. You do have the option that says both. It's just going to put a boundary around it, plus highlight the items that are contained inside that particular reference file. Or you do have the option that says none, which won't put anything out there whenever you select it. So that's kind of personal preference what you want to have displayed for your highlight mode. So that's just kind of a general overview of references, a couple of different options in there that you can utilize. In the later videos, we're going to talk about how to attach or detach a reference file, how to locate lost attachments if one's in red, how you can reattach it. Another thing that we're going to talk about is reference clipping. If you need to clip out a certain area, maybe ghost it out to put some text inside of a certain area, we'll kind of show you that. And also how to edit items in a reference file. There's actually a few different ways you can edit those items inside those reference files depending on what situation that you want to do. You can't physically come in the file here and just use your delete tool and try to delete out something like this guardrail. It's not going to allow you to do it. But there's a way you can come in here and either open up the file or exchange into it, or there's another method that you can still come in there and make those changes to it fairly easily. So we'll kind of show you that also in the later videos. One thing that I did forget to mention whenever we were going over some of our items through here is you have these little toggles over to the side where it says display, snap, and locate. Right now these 3 are checked on. Let's say I have a reference file that's attached and I want to leave it attached to the sheet, but I need to remove it for the time being. Maybe it's in the way of something that I'm trying to measure, or I just don't need it right now, but I still want to leave it attached. Well, you can undisplay it just like what you can with a level. So if I come in here and I check mark this box right here and I uncheck it, it takes it away from my particular file that I'm in. Still attached, it just undisplays it. So if I check mark it back on, it's displayed back on. Very similar to the way the levels works, but it's actually turning off or turning on that file. These other 2 options right here where it says snap and locate, right now if I use my element selection tool, I can come in here and I can select that particular line. Even though it is in a reference file, I can come in here and I can select it. I still can't make any physical modifications to it, like deleting it. It won't do anything because I can't do that because it's located in a reference file. But I could come in here and I could copy it into the active file if I need to do that. Or snap, if I need to snap to it. See, I'm wanting to draw a line from this particular building right here. I can snap to it and go to my next point. Change my snap to my key point snap. And I can snap to those particular items depending on what snap mode that I have. But if I don't have those checked on, let's say I do uncheck the snap and I uncheck the locate. Now if I come in here and I use my element selection tool, I cannot select it. And it even says it says element is in a reference with locate turned off, which is this option right here. So I cannot locate, I cannot actually select that particular item or even snap to it. So if I'm wanting to draw a line from this building right here, I cannot snap to it. It says element is in a non-snappable reference, so I can't snap to it also. But most of the time you'll just leave those two checked on, but that's those two do. Also, you have these options down below here where it says display, snap, and locate, which is the exact same as what these three icons over to the side here. Also, you have your files through here. If you want to see their full location of where they're at versus just their file name, you can hover over top of it and it shows you the full path of where that particular file is located at also. Most of your drawings that are done here for plants production are one-to-one. We draw stuff one-to-one. We don't scale it. That way you can get proper quantities off of it, measurements, and other stuff. Only one that will have a scale to it is this one that says border, depending on what scale border that you place around that geometry. This one here is a 100 scale border. So if I do a fit view, that's a particular border that's around it. All your rest of your items should be a scale of 1-to-1. You do have some other options down below here, but we're not going to go over in detail of any of those. Most of these should be set the way it should be set, so you shouldn't have to tweak any of those.